Welcome back to PhotoJoseph's Photo Moment. This is follow-up to the WWDC Keynote, WWDC 2018, of course, that has just ended. You have probably watched that exhaustive 2+ hours of content right now and are ready to chit-chat about what we saw and see if anything in here really got our attention. So the big takeaway, big thing that was missing was hardware. There was zero hardware announcements. I know a lot of people are looking for new MacBook Pros, maybe new Mac Pro announcement, iPad, iPhones. There's lots of rumors around iPhone 10. Are we going to get an SE version? Are we going to get a Plus version? Whatever. None of it. Not a zilch. This is entirely 100% software, which, does actually make sense because the developers are really more developing for the software. Obviously, if there's new hardware features, like last year, the AR kit stuff required hardware, so that kind of goes without saying that it gets announced. But this year was really totally about the software and the developers. So I want to hear in the chat, in the comments, what you guys saw, what caught your attention. So if you're watching live still, and there are quite a few of you still watching live, excellent, I'm glad to see you guys sticking around. Drop them in the comments here. Make sure you put my name, put PhotoJoseph in front of the comment. That way it shows up red on my screen, and I know that you have something you want to say, so please do bring that up there. I'm going to start off with some of the things that really caught my attention that I wrote down while we were going. Actually, I'm going to start with stacks. Only because if you're watching the live thing, you overheard my comment going, wait a minute, this is like 20-year-old technology. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So if you missed the keynote, if you haven't seen this part of the keynote yet, part of Stacks is part of macOS Mojave. Got to get the names right. So the new macOS Mojave. And the idea is you've got a cluttered desktop, just tons of crap all over your desktop. And Stacks will automatically bring file types together. So you, not in a list, but actually stacked up on top of each other. So all your pictures are kind of in a little stack, and all your PDFs are in a little stack, or whatever it is. He didn't really show, unless I missed it, how you dig through a stack, which is kind of interesting. But let me show you something. So I used to work at this company called Meta Creations. And before Meta Creations was Meta Creations, it was Meta Tools. Before it was Meta Tools, it was HSC Software Hardware System Computing. It's a really lame name. Anyway, that was a company that was founded in part by Kai Krause. Kai Krause was an absolute visionary 20+ years ago in the world of software development. And there was a piece of software, and I used to work there. There was a piece of software that we had there called Kai's PhotoSoap. Now, many of you have probably heard of Kai's Power Goo or Kai's Power Tools if you're a Photoshop user from that era, Photoshop 1.0 and beyond. But PhotoSoap was a more consumer-focused product. Imagine iPhoto 20 years ago. But let me show you something. So I had to do a little quick Googling to come up with some screenshots here, and check this out. This is a screenshot of Kai's PhotoSoap. Oops, it's opening up a new window. Didn't mean to do that. Oh, wow, there's a whole bunch of Kai software here. That's not where I wanted to go. I just wanted to see, I guess I can't really do that. Make it bigger like this. So see these little groups of pictures? These are stacks. And they've got a label on them. And if you clicked on that label, it would expand out to show you everything that was in there. Because obviously you can't find that photo when it's in this. How are you supposed to find the photo you're looking for when it's all stacked up on top of each other like this? You'd click on the name, or I think you double click on the name, title, something like that, and it would expand out so you could see everything. That was stacks. And I know because I Googled PhotoSoap, and a buddy of mine, Kai Groddert, who's a German who lived, actually still here in the US, and he came to the US to work for Kai back when I was there 20+ years ago, and he was a big part of this. When I Googled this, his name came up, which was kind of cool. But it's just so funny to see this stacks thing coming up on macOS now, and I'm going, that's awfully familiar. I'm pretty sure we've seen that before. So there we go. All right, so that was the first thing that I had. All right, we have some comments coming up here, so let's see what we got. Tom Murphy says, they did actually do a good job of bringing many of the improvements to iOS if they do come through with them. Yeah, definitely some nice improvements on iOS there. Shh, Ryan's slamming the doors open here. My goodness. They did bring some good improvements to iOS for sure. The time control, what was it called? The parental support stuff, whatever they call the time limits. That I think is super, super important. As a parent, I know I want an easy way to say, right, you get this much time on your phone, and that's kind of hard to do. And it's funny because, like, in my house, in my Wi-Fi, I have the ability to limit particular devices to a certain number of hours per day, or to limit websites that they go to and that sort of thing. But the problem with all of that is if you're on an iPhone, all you gotta do is turn off Wi-Fi and you have access to everything over your cellular data, right? So kind of self-defeating. So this is something that I've been waiting for a long time, so I'm really, really happy to have it. My kids aren't gonna be too happy about it, but, you know, c'est la vie. So that is exciting. If there's something specific that you want to talk about that's in iOS or coming to iOS, drop it into the chat. Let's talk about it. Majestic says, I'm so excited for the new macOS, but why was there no info about the new MacBook? There was no hardware announcements at all, Majestic, not a single one. So as far as why, the only guess is I did hear something this morning about how one of the reasons that there's no new hardware is the Intel that makes the processors has delayed all of its next major processor until next year. It was supposed to be this year. It's actually now going to be 2019. They are apparently shipping enough testing units or whatever they're called to developers, companies like Apple and so on, so that they can be working with it, but they're not actually going to be producing them in mass until next year. So that could be one of the major reasons we didn't see any hardware announcements at all. Benjamin asking, why did they not announce the new iPhones? I would say, my guess would be that whatever's next for the iPhone isn't significant enough that the developers need to be made aware of it. Let's remember, this is a developers conference. The whole purpose of WWDC is for the developers. And if there's not something that they need, sure, they'd like to have a faster Mac, they might want to have a phone with a bigger screen, whatever. But like last year, we had AR kit, that's actual hardware stuff, the whole front-facing camera on iPhone 10 that was all new. All of that stuff was things that developers needed to know about to be able to write code for. This, in part, tells me that the next round of hardware isn't going to be any major improvement, which it doesn't need to be. I mean, we had a major change last year. We can do incremental updates this year, and then expect major changes the year after that. That's pretty normal, I think. Ultramedia says this event seems to be focused on keeping the under 30-year-old market happy. Very little about this was boosting real productivity for businesses. True, but productivity, business stuff isn't something they usually really talk about too much in here. Most of the developers that are showing up to this aren't your Microsofts, big companies doing big company stuff, big business stuff. Well, kind of the developers that show up to this conference are younger, smaller developers doing something really innovative and different, and that usually tends to be a younger generational set. So I wouldn't look at that as any problem. I think that's just kind of normal for what we get. Majestic, why would no info on the MacBook or iPhone? We just talked about that. Bart says, most affordable Apple announcement yet. All free software updates. My wallet is safe. Right? There's that. Really disappointed by the Photos update, though. All they did was talk about the sharing thing, which is cool. Right? I like the new Photos sharing thing. You come back from a party, a vacation, a dinner out with your friends, whatever. You take your photos, you share them to your friend. A friend gets that announcement. They see the photos, and it says, hey, by the way, you took some photos at that event, too. Do you want to share them back to the group? I like that. I think that's pretty cool. Of course, the only problem is that it's an iPhone thing only, and all my friends are not all iPhone users. So it doesn't, that's a bit of a, if they took photos and messages, well, I mean, if you put photos and messages on Android, then people would probably stop buying iPhones. So, yeah, oh well. Anyway. Skylight, macOS 10, or macOS, it's now called Continuity Screenshot Finder. So yeah, continuity on macOS, that was really cool. Oops, wrong screen. Bring that there. The continuity, that was really cool with the phone, for the camera on the phone. Gotta admit, very, very cool. Quick and easy way to scan documents that you've got sitting on your desk. I want to include this document or this photo in my app or this picture of this thing, and to be able to just continuity there from your phone. Very, very slick. Like that a lot. Screenshot, yeah, screenshot just like we have on iOS now. The ability to take a screenshot and it pops up in the corner, open it up, you can mark it up, make changes to it, crop it, send it from there. Now that's going to be on macOS, very nice. And Finder, yeah, obviously some very nice Finder integrations as well. Let's see here. Talman says, sad there was no third-party navigation announced for Apple Watch. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily mean that's not going to happen. I mean, okay, so you say no third-party navigation, but you can, if you use Google Maps to do directions on your phone, don't you get the notifications, the turn here, turn there, at least showing up on your watch? I don't know, I've used Google Maps very little. I actually am one of those people, I actually like Apple Maps, and I prefer the UI. Occasionally I'll launch Google Maps, but it's pretty rare. Tell me what you can't do, because I'm just not familiar with it. Ron Ayala saying, how can I download the free iOS 12 Beta 1? You got to be a developer. If you are a developer, then you will probably have access to it today. That's usually how that works. Let's see here. Siri scripting on iOS 12. That's pretty slick. I like that a lot, to be able to say, hey, Siri, I am quiet. No, I am on my way home. And it just does this. You can notify your wife to send a text message to your wife. I'm on my way. It's going to take you 20 minutes to get there. It'll say, presumably, you could say, figure out how long it's going to take me to get home. It says 22 minutes. Text my wife that it'll be 22 minutes till I'm home. Dig that. I'm kind of presuming some things here, but it can at least send a message that you're on your way. Start playing this playlist. I think that's really, really cool. I like that a lot. I like that a lot. So scripting, serious scripting, I think is going to be very, very cool on there. All right, let's see here. What else showed up in here? Bart says, I'm actually really interested in seeing a rollout of the USDZ file type. It would be great for online shopping. Yeah, absolutely. That augmented reality file type thing. We saw a little bit of this last year, not with the file type, but the augmented reality shopping thing. IKEA came out with an app right away that you could put a chair on your floor to the table in the corner. A little sketchy, a little, I haven't really played with this since it came out, but it was pretty cool. But I do really like that idea. You're right. It's great to be able to say, I'm thinking about, this, I don't know, this table setting. How would that look in my house? And take a picture of that, put augmented reality, put it on your plate, on your table. I think it'd be cool. That augmented reality game where they're shooting knocking the blocks over, and multiple people playing together. That was cool. The Lego thing. How cool is the Lego thing? That's pretty awesome. And I like that it wasn't just about completely virtual. It's not sitting here on my phone playing Legos. No, I'm building a Lego set, and then I'm going to use my iPad to look at that Lego set and add things to it. I think that's pretty cool. I do like that. Talman says, I think just Apple Maps can show up on the watch. Okay, I'm not familiar with it enough with it. Sorry. Real House Film says Siri is now much like the AI in the movie Upgrade. Sean and I saw Upgrade 2 nights ago in Hollywood. Kind of cool movie. Yes, Siri's getting there. All we need is the little bug to plant on the back of our neck and we'll be set. Absolutely. Tallman says, yeah, just double checked. Okay, so no Google Maps on your watch. So, I don't know, maybe it'll come, maybe not. At least we're getting alternate maps in, what is it called? CarOS, right? Yeah, in CarOS. So that's good, which does kind of lead the way. That does tell us, okay, Apple is allowing third-party map services into other devices, other services. Perhaps that will show up on watchOS as well. So maybe it just wasn't announced. Maybe it was just, it's not ready. Maybe they're not sure if it's going to ship. You never know. You never know. SRO Digital, I wonder if Unistrut does an AR app just saying, for those who don't know, my entire structure here was built with Unistrut, built in cooperation with my entire live audience that sat and watched me do that live show. That was really fun. That was cool. Hey, I'm gonna take advantage of this massive live audience that we have right now and tell you about a couple of things that I've got coming up here. If you are a photographer out there in this group, or even a filmmaker, honestly, cinematographer, just do more into video than stills, I'm going to India. I'm taking up to 8 people to India with me next year, January 30th through February 9th of 2019. It's going to be an incredible, incredible experience. Really unbelievably photographic, cinema, you know what I mean, experience. PhotoJoseph.com/India. It's going to be wonderful. I hope that some of you can come with me. You can take only up to 8 people. PhotoJoseph.com/India. Go check that out. Consider coming along with. It's going to be fun. So I want to make sure that you guys knew all about that. Let's see here. What else is going on? Dustin says, when do you think a MacBook hardware refresh is going to happen? Again, Dustin, no, I really don't know anything more than anybody else does. A lot of those things come down to the chips. And what I was saying at the beginning of the show was that I have heard that that Intel is having issues with their whatever. They are delaying the shipment of their latest and greatest processors until next year. So we may not see anything big until then. Maybe we'll get a small refresh update, but it wouldn't be something worth mentioning in an update like this, in a keynote like this. It's also worth pointing out, guys, that just because it wasn't announced in the keynote today doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, right? You may be able to go on to the Apple website right now and see that maybe the MacBook Pros got updated or there's a small refresh. That happens all the time. There's silent refreshes that you can't possibly talk about everything. It'd be a 10-hour-long show. So quite often, small refreshes do sneak into the Apple a store that you may not have been aware were coming. So something to consider as well. Brenda says, what if the new products have already been announced? There are no hardware products announced. So no hardware was announced. It was all entirely just software. Okay, let's see. Go back to my list here. What was the other new thing? FaceTime group calling. So I saw a lot of people in the live show, in my live chat, saying, oh, we've had this forever in Skype. We've had this in Facebook messages. Does Facebook messages do group video chats? That I'm not sure with. I know, of course, Skype has done that. But it's great to see it come to FaceTime. For those of us who use FaceTime, we use it all the time. I think it's a nice addition to have in there. It was an interesting UI. And the way the tiles pop up bigger, I wonder if I can pull that up on let me see if they've got that on the Apple webpage yet. We can take a look at what that interface looks like. It's an interesting idea. I'm not totally convinced, but I guess we'll find out. I guess let's just go to apple.com. apple.com, and let's see what we got here. So there's the Keynote. Oh yeah, there we go. There's a picture of the new multi-user FaceTime. So as an individual talks, their tile grows bigger, which I think is up to 32 people, which is insane. Which I think is very cool the way that works. That is, of course, assuming that you're having a cohesive adult conversation where one person talks and another one starts and that first one stops, not 15 people trying to talk at once. So the UI is going to be like pop, 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 pop. That could be a little crazy. But I think it's very cool. I'm excited about that. Ron Isle about AirPower. Don't know anything about AirPower. Talman says they didn't cover the HomePod improvements or the absent charging pad. Good or bad, I wonder. Oh, the charging pad, that's not around yet? Interesting. I wasn't aware of that because I have an old Gen 1 watch, and so I couldn't use the charging pad. Interesting. But that's, yeah, I guess if they're not shipping that, that is an interesting oversight. HomePod improvements, maybe there aren't any. I mean, that's still pretty new hardware, so I don't think, unless they're going to release a mini version of it we talked about before the show, I don't really think we'd see something there. But yeah, who knows? Who knows? All right, let's see what else is showing up on the Mac or on Apple.com right now. So there's some of the look of the new macOS Mojave. Pretty cool. Markup on there, very, very good. Lots of watchOS improvements. That's nice. I love the walkie-talkie thing. I think that is very, very cool. That walkie-talkie feature is going to be great. I'm thinking about that like, say I'm out for a run, right? And if my wife's going to send me a text message, I'm not going to see it. I mean, I might, maybe I'll see it. Maybe I'll feel a buzz on my watch. Maybe I'll see it, but I'm probably not. Certainly if she calls, the phone's on Do Not Disturb. I really don't want to. But the walkie-talkie thing, that can be kind of cool. Coming home soon? No. That's great. I think that could be very useful. So looking forward to that. What else is on there? Let's see. What other new stuff? Some new workout stuff. The competition is always great. How was that demo where the woman was on stage on the exercise bike doing the live demo? That's got to be a first. That was pretty slick. That was well done. That was well coordinated there. Let's see here. In the comments, Bart saying you like the Nextel, Apple Watch walkie-talkie feature. Yeah, Nextel had it first, but that was a long time ago, so, it's the new first. The measurement kit in iOS seems to have a lot of potential. Yes, that is very true. I know we've seen measurement apps before showing up, but this built in as a kit, obviously that's great. That makes it part of the framework for any other app to access, and I think that could be very cool. Sam AP Gaming, will iOS 12 be compatible with the iPhone 5S? Is iOS 11 compatible with the iPhone 5S? If so, then yes. So what they said was that iOS 12 will work on all the same hardware that iOS 11 works on. So that's great. And specifically, they pointed out they made some major effort in trying to get performance not only to stay the same, but in many cases to be better, especially on older phones. So for those of you with older phones like that 5S, if it's currently running iOS 11 and feeling a little bit chunky, with iOS 12, it should actually see some improvements, which is pretty remarkable, frankly. Justin is saying, do I think we'll see any new hardware this week? Entirely possible. Again, check the store. You might look. I don't know what's current right now on the store. So if I look at the store right now, I'm not going to necessarily see if anything's new. And I'm just scrolling through. I don't know if any of this stuff is new necessarily that's on here, but it is entirely possible that there will be updates to the store that we have not yet seen ourselves, that we didn't see in the keynote. So entirely possible. Alexander saying, do I like how iOS 12 works? I like what I've seen so far. I'll tell you when I get my hands on it, whether I like it for real or not. Let's see here. All right. What else? Let's go back to my notes. What else did I want to jump onto? The parental support, talked about that already. Super happy about that. To be able to say, hey, kid, you get 1 hour of FaceTime a day. I keep saying FaceTime, Facebook. You get 1 hour of Facebook a day. That I think is superb. Very happy to see that. The Apple Watch walkie-talkie thing we talked about. Here's an interesting question. So I saw this come up in the comments, and I didn't write down who it was, so I don't know if you're still here watching or not. But when they were talking about the App Store, someone said, I much prefer to buy apps outside of the App Store. And I thought that was an interesting comment. I know that from one perspective, you can say, well, let's say an app is $100, if I buy that $100 app from developer XYZ, they get that full $100. If I buy it from the App Store, they only get $70, right? Apple does keep 30%. But that's no different than selling, if you were to go into Best Buy back in the day when you had to buy stuff on a box software off the shelf, you'd go in there and buy it. And so that company was obviously making a profit off of that, and quite a huge profit. I mean, the software was always a very healthy markup, And the cost that a company, if you're selling it, let's say you as a developer had a $100 app and you were selling it through the normal distribution channel 20 years ago, what you could sell that boxed copy to the store was very, very low. It was nowhere near $100. So developers are getting a lot more money now. And I think the 30% that Apple keeps is very, very fair considering the entire infrastructure, the entire hosting, delivery of everything is all on their side. I think that's a totally, totally fair price to pay. While okay, it might be nice to go to the developer and spend the $100 there so they get the full $100, I, for one, find that having all of my apps in the App Store, meaning I can set up a new Mac, whether I'm getting a new Mac, whether I've done a complete wipe on my Mac, whatever it might be, the fact that I can go into the App Store and just re-download all of my apps that I've bought with just a few clicks, that's enormous to me. It really frustrates me when I have to buy an app outside of the App Store these days. So that's my perspective on it. I'd be curious if the person is still watching. I'm sorry I didn't write down the name, so I don't remember who it was. But the fellow who was watching said they prefer to buy their apps outside of the App Store. I'd be curious to know why you think that would be a good way to go or a better way to go. Alexander's asking me, do I wish they added the dark mode to iOS 12? Honestly, no. I don't get much of the attraction to the dark mode. I mean, if you're going to sit on your bed at night working on your computer, I guess maybe it's darker, but you can just make the screen darker. I'm not a huge fan of the dark mode. Like Twitter app has it, I never use it. YouTube app now has it, I never ever use it. I turn it on, I don't like white text on a black background. I don't like that. I like it the other way around. So I'm not missing it. I know a lot of people are, of course, but and a lot of people are excited about the dark mode in macOS Mojave. But I'm kind of like, okay, well, that's cool, I suppose. Not much else to say. Let's see here. That's everything that I wrote down. I'm sure there were things that I forgot because this is when I was going, oh, I haven't written anything down in a while, and I started adding some things to it. But iPod Mega saying, I missed the event. What did they announce? You're gonna have to go back and watch this all over again. Can't start over again right now. Let's see what else is going on over here. See if there's anything else new on the Mac Store. Let's go back to the top. No, let's go out of here. Let's go back to the WWDC announcement. There we go. So we talked about the Watch OS. Oh, the Apple TV stuff. There's some nice stuff happening there. I have to say I am super impressed, not surprised, but super impressed that all of the content that is currently, all the movies that you've bought previous to now are getting upgraded to 4K, and I think that's something they announced last year, but also now this new Dolby Atmos sound system. That's awesome. I mean, if you bought a movie on DVD, that's it, right? If you bought a standard def DVD, you didn't get a Blu-ray for free when Blu-rays came out. The fact that movies that you bought on Apple TV years ago, you will now be able to play in 4K, Dolby Atmos, that's incredible. I think that is very, very impressive and a real testament to this technology and what they're able to do and the way that they can deliver. Love it, love it, love it. So I think that's awesome. I, for one, am happy about that. Of course, I don't know, for those of you who are watching live and heard me, I said that it's funny because my TV at home is actually 720p. I have an old Panasonic plasma screen that I've had for 15 years or so. Seriously, it looks fantastic. It looks really, really, it might be more than that. Yeah, 15, let's call it 15 years. Still looks great, and it's only 720p. It's 55 inches. That's a great looking TV. How many TVs you buy today that will still be useful in 15 years? I mean, granted, it's not HDR, it's only 720p, but it still looks great, so that's me. Let's see what else is going on. In the comments, back in the comments. What happened to the SC2 and AirPower, ARI, there was no hardware announced at all, so that's what happened to it. SRO Digital, do you appreciate the fact there has been effort to stop making hardware so redundant or artificially slower by the use of OS updates, or do you misinterpret that aspect? I'd say that's a little bit of a misinterpretation. So there was a big brouhaha a little while ago where someone proved that older phones were running slower. Older phones were running iOS more slowly than they needed to be. And Apple came out and said, well, yeah, but here's why. And I get it, sort of. It had to do with the battery. Batteries, as they get used more and more and more, get charged and discharged, charged and discharged. They lose power, they lose life. And one of the things that can happen is if you're running your phone at full power all the time, then your battery life can get really, really short. If your battery can't give enough power, you might get crashes and in some cases complete phone shutdowns. And so Apple's way of solving that problem is to throttle the phone, to make it slower, run more slowly if it is running a really old battery. And it's a good story, but it's also one of those, well, you probably should have told us that instead of waiting until someone figured it out. So I I totally agree. I think this isn't something Apple could have been a lot more above board on before they got caught doing it. You know, it's one of those like, tell us what you're doing. Don't try and explain it afterwards. But neither here nor there, that happened. They then announced, is it in the current iOS? I think it's in the current iOS now. I'm not sure because I don't have an old enough device to find it on. But if not in current iOS that'll be coming, you have the ability to turn that battery management off. So if you have an older battery, you can basically check a box that says, I realize I have an older battery and that my device is being throttled, but I'm going to disable that so I get full power. Yes, my phone may crash, I may get issues, whatever. So that is already done. That's taken care of, right? But now what they're talking about, the new thing is developing this new latest iOS to give better performance on older devices. And I think that is wonderful to see. Now, whether this is being done out of response to backlash, or it is simply the developers going, let's spend some time doing this, who knows? Nobody can know what's going on truly inside of Apple. But for whatever the reason, I'm very happy to see that coming in. I know as an iPhone user since version 1 that if you are holding onto an older device, it can start to feel pretty chunky. And I totally get it, right? Developers are making their apps, their software for the latest and greatest hardware. And if you want to run the latest operating system, you want to run the latest apps, you got to have the hardware to support it. I mean, that's fair. That's legit. People complain about this. Well, I've got my 5-year-old iPhone. Why can't it run the latest version of this app? Come on, man. I mean, that app was developed for the latest hardware. You wouldn't. I mean, look at the flip side of it. If you had a phone that was capable of this, but the operating system, all the apps were being developed just for this, then you'd go, well, why am I even buying this super high-powered phone? What's the freaking point of this? It's not going to take advantage of the power. So all the operating system, the apps, that's what they're developed for. No one forces you to upgrade, right? If you have an older phone and you're running various apps in your iOS that is fine, and you are concerned that upgrading it is going to make it slow down, don't upgrade. No one's forcing you to upgrade. And I saw a comment that said, yeah, but if you want the latest app, then you have to upgrade the OS sometimes. True. Then don't upgrade to that latest app. And if you really need that greatest app, then you got to buy new hardware to go with it. That sounds fair to me. That's just the way that it is. So anyway, I am very happy to see that they are making significant efforts to make the older phones perform better. I think that's fantastic. It's great to just see kind of get out of the culture of you got to get a new phone every year, and whether it's an Apple or Android or whatever, it's a bit crazy. I'm kind of super techie kind of person. I feel like I often want to have the latest and greatest. Especially when I'm, for doing the show, stuff like that, I have these things to talk about. But the vast majority of users do not need the latest and greatest phone. They just feel compelled to upgrade, partially because of performance. So if we get better performance out of these, then I think that's good for everybody, including the landfills. Okay, let's see here. Tom and Murphy says, the invert feature has nearly turned into dark mode as it has improved tremendously. Oh, that's interesting. So he's talking about in iOS, you have the ability to invert the screen. It's under the what are they called? The services. It's under the services menu. It's where you do like the bigger fonts and that sort of thing. You can invert the screen. I'm not quite sure what visual condition makes that easier to see, but apparently it does. But he's pointing out that it is very much like a night mode. That's interesting. Yeah, it makes sense because white becomes black. So there you go. Alexander Barbosa says, do you like how Apple added a dynamic wallpaper that changes day and night? Yeah, that's kind of cool. I like that. I've got a little app on my desktop system that swaps out the wallpaper every day with some photo from like 500px or something like that. It's kind of cool to get the new wallpaper. But yeah, dynamically changing, that's kind of cute. Why not? And those are the kind of features you go, is it really worthy of the keynote? But hey, whatever. Sam AP Gaming. When you were talking about the older devices giving that option, battery I think we're talking about, I'm pretty sure that does not exist, at least not with an old iPhone 4S that we have. Okay, so that might be something that's coming and not something that's shipping. I know it's been talked about. Apple has said they're doing it. I thought it was already out, but again, I don't know because I don't have an old enough device to... Actually, you know what? Hold on, this iPad is ancient here. Let's see if I can find anything on this one. I can't put this on the screen, but let me just take a look at this. If I go to... Actually, this is not ancient, but it's pretty old. Battery, let's see what it shows me. It would be under your battery controls, I think. It doesn't show anything there. So, but I really thought that was shipping already. I don't know. Next, where are we? Sam AP, we already hit that. Bernico Krog says, do you know anything about the partnership with AMD to produce Apple's own chips for the Macs? No, I don't. We talked about that at the beginning before the show. where I said my understanding is that Apple is developing this. At least I think that was my understanding. It might also be some weird like rumor that I heard or just something that's in my head. But Apple develops their own chips for their iOS devices, right? So the chip that you're running in this is, what is it, the A1 or 2 or whatever the heck it is. I could totally see them doing this for their computers as well, for the desktop and laptop computers. It would make sense. Alexander says, do you wish there was a watered-down version for iOS 12? Watered-down version of the operating system? No, that wouldn't make sense. That wouldn't make sense because then you'd have your developers, your app developers would have to develop a version of the app that is for 2 different feature bases of the operating system. I don't think that would make much sense. So no, I don't think we should have that. All right, let's see. Is there anything else on here that we missed? Oh, great. Now I got to get my switcher back. Let's bring that back up. Let's see here. Let me jump into the iOS 12 page and let's see what it's saying in here. See if there's anything. The Animoji or me emoji or whatever that's called. That's cute. I mean, not epically important, but cute. Let's see here. Speed things up every day. So it's talking about the performance increases. Very, very nice. Very welcome, obviously. FaceTime with up to 32 people. We talked about that. Pretty incredible. Animoji for yourself. You got to admit, as cheesy as it might be, that demo was pretty good. The woman that was up there with the short blonde hair, the bob cut, and she did hers. That was getting pretty looking like her. That was kind of cool. Gotta say, that was pretty cool. Say it with 4 new Animoji. Okay, whatever. Liven up the conversation. Yes, great. This is, let's be honest, this is stuff that many other apps have had for a while, but it's cute. At least we're getting it built into that. AR. Oh, that's a cool demo. Neat. I mean, that whole thing, AR across multiple devices, that's pretty freaking awesome. Parental controls, thank you very much. Oh yeah, notifications, the grouped notifications like that, and this whole thing. Yeah, let's just talk about this a little bit. Much more advanced do not disturb features than we've had in the past. I think this is tremendous. I love the nighttime thing where he showed, where if you look at your phone at night, it just shows you the time and says something about nighttime mode, and that's it. And you wake up in the morning, it says good morning, it has the weather or something like that on there. To then be able to say, okay, now I'm ready to look at my messages, tap it, and it opens them up. I think that's great because I do this. I pick up my phone in the morning, and I will actually, I pull it off the charger. So I always get up before my wife, so it's dark in the room. I pick it up, and I point it down towards the ground. I don't want it to wake up, and I'll usually hit a button to light it up, and I'll kind of use that to navigate my way out of the room. Right? But then I'll set it down and I don't want to look at it. I don't want to see it until I have made my coffee and I sit down, and then now I'm going to pull it out and look at it. Because if you glance at it, you're like, I'm not going to look at it. I'm like, oh, what's that? Oh, what's that? Terrible, right? So I really, really like this idea. I think this is great. The easier dismissing of notifications in groups is great. The ability to kind of from the notification screen say, yeah, you know what, I don't want to see these notifications from CNN or whatever app anymore. I don't Facebook. Don't show me those anymore. Very, very cool. I like that a lot. So I'm very happy to see that. Let's see here. Back into the comments. XD, I have no idea what you're saying. Osme says, I don't mind buying stuff from the App Store. Oh, it was you, wasn't it? Yeah, it was you, Osme, that said that you would prefer to buy stuff externally. Okay. I don't mind buying stuff from the App Store, but I don't want it to be the only option. Okay, Apple also rejects many useful apps for my work, like network scanners and hacking tools. Well, okay, you just said it right there, hacking tools. This is why they reject it. This is not something that people want that Apple wants normal users to get. And by normal users, I mean, regular non-hackers. I get it. So I don't think it could ever be that's the only way to get them. It's just going to be a more and more popular way. Philip Scenes, yes, the full keynote is over. Sorry. Let's see here. Anything new for Apple CarPlay? Aaron Polis asks. Yeah, there was. Well, the big thing in there was third-party apps. Third-party apps will be more. Third-party navigation, sorry. There have already been third-party apps, third-party navigation apps. So, Google Maps, Waze, that sort of thing will be able to work in Apple CarPlay. I think that was it. Was there anything else in Apple CarPlay? I kind of think that was the only significant thing. I feel like there might have been something else. If someone else remembers, remind me in there. Alexander Barbosa, what MacBook do you recommend for daily use? The best one you can possibly afford. Why? Because then it will last you the longest. It doesn't matter if you don't need that power today. If you can afford it, buy the best you can afford. Don't go into debt over it. Don't put it on a credit card if you can help it. But buy the best you can afford. It will last you the longest. I always tell this to people, and I always use my hardware for a really long time. This MacBook, Ryan, look up the year on my MacBook Pro, on my iMac in there. My MacBook Pro here is a 2014. right? Mid 2014, 15-inch Retina MacBook Pro. It's got all the ports. I have zero desire to upgrade because I don't want just 2 USB-C ports sticking off my computer. But also, I don't need to spend $3,000. You know what I did over the weekend on this thing? I shot a live presentation with 3 cameras, all in 4K. I edited a 3-camera multicam 4K video on my MacBook Pro, on my 2014 MacBook Pro, right? So it's good. It's good. Ryan, if you're looking that up, I can't hear you. I'm going to have Ryan look up my 5K iMac and see what it is. Let's see here. What else we got going on? So anyway, so that's my advice. Buy the best you can possibly afford. All right. Let's see here. So that's notifications, all good. Do not disturb. Oh, this is cool too for do not disturb. Turn it on and do not forget about it. I like this. So you can turn it on and say, just be on for an hour until this evening, until I leave this location. This is actually really, really important for me because what happens to me all the time is I do my live show and I put on do not disturb for obvious reasons. And then I forget to disable it. And my wife's like, lunchtime, I finally look at my phone and go, oh crap, she sent me 20 messages. Oh look, we have people over in Twitch. Those in the Twitch stream, hello, greetings. We're chit-chatting about the keynote that just happened. Let's see here. What else we got? Photo sharing. We talked about that a little bit, the new ways to share your photos. That's pretty cool. Better search. I saw in the comments someone says, yeah, Google's had this forever, the search. Apple's had the search in there. This is just an improvement on the search. And the search does work remarkably well, I have to say. So if that's getting better, then all the more power to us all. Shortcuts, we talked about that. Love the shortcuts. Very excited to see that. Oh, yeah, the fingerprint scanner. I guess this was, well, oh, the fingerprint thing was, that was on macOS. The whole thing where it's the fingerprinting that a website or whatever services do, where they identify your computer based off of the fonts that you use, plugins that you have installed, all this kind of stuff. That's crazy. I had no idea. So macOS is going to be protecting against that. That's phenomenal. And I guess we're seeing some of that stuff on iOS as well. Yeah, the privacy updates are great, Osmo says. And no, Chocolate, no new iPhones announced. Let's see here. What else we got going on here? Okay, so this was interesting. So this story came together at the end. So they talked about the News app. I guess we're looking at iOS now, but it was a News app, Stocks app, voice memos, and what was the other one? There's one more that is now, or will be, on macOS Mojave. And you're thinking, okay, that's great. I mean, I'm glad to see these apps going everywhere, but is this really worthy of a keynote mention? And then at the end they said why this was a keynote mention, because iOS apps will be able to run on macOS at some point in the future. In 2019, developers will be able to work on that. For 2018, there are some Apple's own apps that are being run that way with minimal code changes to make them fully compatible, and that's what we're seeing on with those new apps on macOS, which is pretty cool. And that's good. It's good to have that option. And someone was asking about that before the show started. Will we be able to run iOS apps on macOS? So the answer is yes. Next year, that'll be available for all apps. For this year, it'll be just the Apple apps. So that's kind of cool. Alrighty, and for those of you wondering how to get your hands on this, there you go. Join the Apple Beta software programs. Looks like you don't even have to be a developer anymore. That's right, I forgot about that. You don't have to be a developer. You can just join the Apple Beta program and get on the latest iOS if you want to. But allow me to say, don't do it unless you really like. Don't. If you're a developer, obviously you have to. I've spent so much of my life in beta software. I shy away from it whenever possible these days. I just want my software to work. I really, really do. And there are very, very rarely features so compelling that I have to have it now that I can't just wait 3 or 4 months. September is usually when this comes out for the next update. So, oh, timing. That's right. They didn't make an announcement on timing, but it's fall. It's always the same. Alexander Barbosa is saying, do you like how macOS Mojave and do you like how macOS Mojave and is it better than macOS High Sierra? Well, clearly it's better. It's got a lot more features, and I like what I've seen. So I think I'm answering your question. Why were there no new iPhones? I don't know. As somebody who works for Apple, I have no idea. I have my theories. There's no significant hardware improvements, hardware changes, nothing the developers need to know, and that's as far as it is. Jadon Barnes says, for a company to create Mac-exclusive applications for their market, do you think it would be a suicide mission on their behalf to limit the audience toward Mac-only users? Not at all. Not at all. And Hazar hates Apple for now. Cool. Astro Digital, one of the most useful features on mobiles of years ago is notification profiles so loud, silent, plus custom settings. They're in, but you can see these profiles to last for a set time. I've kind of lost you there, bud. One of the most useful features on mobiles of years ago was notification profiles. Okay, so loud, silent, plus custom settings. They're in, but you could set these profiles. Oh, I see. So you're saying you could choose my at work profile, my at home profile, my playing with the kids profile, my sleeping profile, that kind of thing. I think that's kind of what they're doing with this to some degree, isn't it? Maybe not. But that's cool. I like that. That would be good. Let's see. Anything else on here worth pulling up? Let me jump back into the main screen here. macOS Mojave. Okay, let's take a look at the Mojave page. We're not going to do this for too much longer. I am losing it here. It's time to break out. Let's see here. Back to the Mac. Let's take a look at Mojave features. Ooh, I mean, come on. Look, Apple web pages. This is so nicely designed. Look at this. That is just, I'm scrolling down. That is just slick. So well done. Okay, there's the night mode, the dynamic desktop. That's cool. Can I actually scroll this? Ooh, I can. Okay, so it's doing a crossfade between a couple of photos, but you know, that's okay. That's okay. There are people on Twitch. I do read the Twitch cat. It's very small. Hold on, let me make this a little bit bigger here. I can't see that. There we go. I do read the Twitch app Mukla Drifter. Can I bring that up? I can. I don't have. There we go. There's my two chats side by side. As you can see, this is the entirety of the chat that was happening in Twitch, and this is the entirety of the chat that's happening on YouTube, and that's like the last 5 minutes of it because it does scroll off. Anyway, yes, if you have a question over in Twitch, by all means, say it. Why does it say it's 104? Oh my God, because it is. Man, no wonder I'm hungry. Okay, really neat way to manage files. So here, let's replay this. Yeah, see, this is, I don't know, man. I mean, it's cool, but it is definitely old school tech. What I'm saying here. Anyway, new ways to view more what you do. Okay, oh, the info panels. Yeah, the metadata panel. Very, very nice. Very nice to see that. Gallery view, quick access, complete metadata. Yep, digging that. Work on a file without opening it. Cool. It's like the appless app. You don't need an app. You just open it and go. Touch it and go. Screenshots. Yeah, we talked about that. Very nice features in there. Take a photo right on your Mac. The continuity with your phone. Extremely cool. Very excited to see that. They didn't show. Oh, that's nice. Okay, so there's FaceTime on the Mac with the multiple users. Obviously, that makes sense. That's kind of cool layout on there. It's a bit different than on your phone. I'm digging that. Ready for the big screen debut. Ah, yes, the new iOS apps that have moved over to macOS. A new store. The new store looks nice. Definitely looks nice. And then the privacy discussions. Very, very important privacy discussions in there. Okay. All right. I think, my friends, it is about time to wrap this thing up. I'm going to very quickly throw up a couple more things for you really quick. For those of you that have just joined us, don't forget I'm doing a photography workshop in India early next year. Check that out at photojoseph.com/India. Also, if you haven't heard about this, I'm going to be in Chicago in just a couple of weeks for the Out of Chicago Summer Conference. That is awesome. You can go to outofchicago.com/summer to register for that. Use the code PhotoJoseph to get yourself a discount. And I realize today is not a big education day, but if you feel like you've taken value from today's show, or any of my shows, frankly, do consider putting some value back. Just head over to photojoseph.com/support, and there's lots of options in there on how you can do that. And I see Hizar Salim is saying you are from India. Well, excellent, Hizar Salim. You can join me in the workshop too. You don't have to be coming from all the way over here. It'll cost you a lot less to get there than it will for people over here. When and where am I planning for India? I'm going to be there, what was it? It was January 30th to February 9th of 2019. We start in Kolkata. We are going to Allahabad and to, I'm forgetting the names. Oh, well, since you're asking, I'm just going to pull it up because that's what I can do. Let me go to my website, photojoseph.com/India, and here is the full description. Make that a little bit bigger in there. So we're visiting the Art Kumbh Mela, and Varanasi, that was the other city that I can remember, the Varanasi and Kolkata. Not necessarily in that order. There's a full summary on here of the things we will do and see, full detailed daily itinerary, all the amazing things we're going to see. We're staying in 4 and 5-star hotels, except for the Kumbh Mela, we're going to be in these luxury tents, which are very, very nice. Look, they even have private bathrooms in the tents because it's like 60 million people in one place. This is the kind of things that we will be seeing and photographing. It is going to be absolutely fantastic. Oh, here's the map. Let me get it off of here. So we are going to, here we go. We start in Kolkata. We actually fly to Varanasi and then go to Allahabad and then back to Varanasi. We spend time there and then up to New Delhi to leave. We're really only in New Delhi for one night. That's just a final stop before we move on. So that's where we're going to be. Okay, that is that, my friends. Thank you very much for tuning in. This was fun. It was exhaustive. That was a lot of information. And I hope to see some of you guys in India or Chicago. If you have any questions about it, you know how to reach me. There's the Twitters and, you know, the Facebooks and all those things. I'm everywhere under PhotoJoseph. So that's it. I'm out of here. I got to eat some food before I pass out. See you later, guys. Bye-bye.